Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Chicago Bears are now the top seed in the NFC after the Rams went down. Speaking of the Rams, the Panthers took down LA behind Bryce Young's big day, and Lane Kiffin has made the move from Ole Miss to LSU.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
The Chicago Bears did their Black Friday shopping early, taking care of business on Friday, pounding the Philadelphia Eagles 24-15. And it was one of those buy one, get ones. They won on Friday, and because the Rams lost, they found themselves by Sunday afternoon the number one seed in the NFC. I'd like to know what store they went to, just so I can maybe tell Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst. Lauren Cox from Locked On Bears joins me now. And Lauren, you and I are going to have plenty to talk about this week, of course, with the Packers and Bears looming this weekend. But for now, let's travel back in time to Friday evening when Chicago absolutely worked the Eagles, mostly on the ground.
Yeah, it feels like sitting on Santa's lap and asking for getting whatever I want in a game like that, right? I mean, it felt like a statement because of how they won in the trenches, right? The Eagles are a team that's built on offensive and defensive line. And I know their O-line is dealing with some injuries, but that was a pretty full strength Eagles front seven that the Bears absolutely dominated the line of scrimmage at. And then, being able to have two backs over 100 yards really took a lot of the pressure off of Caleb Williams. He didn't need to be perfect by any means, just manage the game, keep the offense rolling. And then the defense comes up and somehow generates some turnovers off of one of the least turnover prone offenses in football. And it was just like the first game all season where the Bears really did it for 4 full quarters. And it happened to be against maybe the best opponent they faced thus far.
Yeah, and look, the underlying metrics are going to say the Bears are not as good as their record would indicate. Bill Parcells would have something to say certainly about all of that. But what can happen is by the end of the year, it doesn't matter. You bank enough wins and you find yourself in position now where they're better than 50-50, certainly more like 75-80% to make the playoffs now. I know that you have been hesitant to crown them by any means, but they are the number one seed now. So what if anything has changed that would give you more confidence in this team to take on, by the way, the Packers twice in 3 weeks here, and then ultimately some of the big boys in the NFC?
Yeah, I think it's been just a slow progression of players, like new players settling in and young players growing up a little bit along the way here. And that includes Caleb Williams, but also some of the younger weapons that they've added up front, where it feels like early in the season, guys aren't on the same page. There's miscommunications on the offensive line and with the receivers and on the back end of the defense. And it's just like they're off an inch here and an inch there, and it kind of adds up to some uglier, sloppier football games. And I think as that has settled in, so too has the quality of opponent gone up. But I think the Bears play a little bit better, but the opponents get a little bit better. And so you still see a lot of these one score and relatively close results, but because they're better teams, like the team is playing better along the way in that process. It just feels like they're getting like that much closer to whatever like the best version or full like firing on all cylinders version of this Bears team will actually look like.
If you're going to be glass half empty here, is there a shoe you would be waiting for to drop in a moment like this?
Yeah, I think a couple little things. One, like they've been able to get away with, still getting away with some real mistakes here, right? Like Caleb Williams throws an interception on a screen pass that, maybe it's not fully his fault because the guy just made a good play, but like there's turnovers on offense. There's still some penalties on offense, and the Bears still don't really have a consistent pass rush whatsoever. They have to blitz to get pressure on the quarterback, and they found the right mixture of when they can kind of just sit back and drop 7 into coverage, knowing that the quarterback will have some time, and when they got to dial it up. But it feels like kind of a delicate balance that against any given opponent, especially I think when you get in the playoffs against some of the better scheming opponents that can kind of stay one step ahead, the Bears are going to have to keep trying to overcome these weaknesses in a way that feels like eventually somebody should figure out. But we thought that'd be the Eagles on Friday, and they're certainly heading in the wrong direction.
Well, and one of the reasons why we thought it would be the Eagles is, to your point, they don't turn the ball over, and this Bears defense has feasted, in fact, relied mostly on turnovers this year to get things done. And if you just watch last year's playoffs, you go, great. Look at all the teams in the playoffs when they won. It's because they generated turnovers and the other team couldn't.
Yeah, and I think for Chicago, the turnovers start to feel a little bit sustainable when, early in the season, it was like they were getting 3 and 4 a game. And, they're not going to keep that up every week. But, I think it's reasonable enough to say, hey, 1 or 2 on a defense that's opportunistic isn't crazy to ask for. Now, they've gotten 2 turnovers in the last 3 games in a row, and that maybe will slow down at some point. But, if they're doing it against the Eagles, they certainly been doing it against lesser quarterbacks than that. And they feel like it's not even all tips pass luck. It's like Kevin Byard reads it all the way and makes a really great diving play on the ball that is just great playmaking, or a cornerback wins a one-on-one jump battle. There's some real skill there that's being coached in these guys to go out and get there. So I think they've earned the benefit of the doubt that they have to stop doing it before we'll believe it will actually end.
Lauren, if the Bears beat the Packers this weekend in the biggest Packers-Bears game in over a decade, will you commit to pulling a full Ben Johnson on the stream and take your shirt off?
Well, when I do it, the city won't get free hot dogs. So we need to get a sponsor or somebody to step up that if it's for the people, I will do it. But if it's just for my own ego to show off these guns, then I like to kind of, I usually charge for that on a different website, if you know what I mean.
Come on, Portillo's, come through for Lauren. Stay up to date all year on the Chicago Bears by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Bears on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Your Locked On Sports Today. Coming up, the Panthers scored a crucial win against the Rams. Before we get to that, the Colts slide continued. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets on the action as it unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlighted moment. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into and locked on every drive, every snap, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. The Colts are officially in a skid after they fall to the Texans.
It looks like the Indianapolis Colts might be in a little bit of trouble here. They are now 8-4 on the season after dropping 20-16 to the Houston Texans. Their first loss here at home at Lucas Oil Stadium on the season. The Jaguars won their 8-4. The Texans are now 7-5. So the Colts once had a firm grip on the AFC South, but now it's kind of up for grabs at this point. Colts, Jaguars next week, monumental game. But this matchup itself, really kind of tough to diagnose. This is a game of such minuscule details, and the Colts had some drops. They had a missed extra point. The officiating, I hate to be officiating guy, but I think it did play a role. All on one series, you have what should have been a delay a game, phantom DPI, and then the extra point at the end of the drive. Did it even go in? We're going to talk way more about this on the Cold Squad Show, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts.
James Cook carried the Bills over Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers.
The Buffalo Bills get a much-needed 26-7 win over the Pittsburgh Steelers and played the exact style of game they needed to play. It was a cold, breezy day in Pittsburgh. The Bills were without both starting offensive tackles. No Dalton Kincaid, no Josh Palmer. It was going to be tough to throw the football. They needed to be able to lean on their running backs and their run game. That's exactly what the Bills did. 51 rushes, 249 yards, and a touchdown, overcoming a bad James Cook fumble, overcoming a Josh Allen interception. The Bills defense responds, gets 2 huge second half takeaways, and the Bills pull away with a much-needed win as they were the final seed in the AFC entering the week. They stay alive with their win and improve to 8-4.
More from Aaron Rodgers in this game to come. The Jets walked off the Falcons.
The Jets get their 3rd win of the season in a thriller over the Atlanta Falcons. It was a standout performance by Jets special teams from start to finish, right down to Nick Folk's 56-yard field goal as time expired. The biggest story of this game for the Jets, though, was the emergence of Adonai Mitchell. Mitchell was acquired as part of the Sauce Gardner trade at the deadline. He had 8 catches for 102 yards, including a 52-yard touchdown in the second half. He was Tyrod Taylor's go-to guy in this game. Mitchell has all the physical tools to be a quality starting receiver in this league, and his skill set is a perfect complement to Garrett Wilson's. The Jets would love to see him stack performances like this from now until the end of the season. There is a lot of opportunity to earn a starting role on this team going forward. This was a big first step and an encouraging first step for the young receiver Adonai Mitchell, who the Jets just recently acquired.
The Carolina Panthers turned Matthew Stafford over 3 times to secure a huge win over the Rams. Locked On Panthers host Julian Council reacts to Carolina's big victory that keeps them squarely in the playoff hunt.
The Carolina Panthers 31, the Los Angeles Rams 28. Yet another Sunday where the Panthers have shocked the NFL world and made a fool out of your boy, because I, as you know, all week long and really all season long have counted the Panthers out in this week 13 matchup. I have been very upfront about how I feel about that Los Angeles Rams team and what I believe that they're going to achieve, even with this loss today this season in the NFL. I did not think this was ever a game that Panthers fans or the Panthers, I mean, obviously they have to believe, but I didn't think this was a game that really anyone outside of these walls in Bank of America Stadium should have truly believed they had a chance to win. I understand that they beat the Packers. I'm not really loving the Packers this season. Obviously a big win for Carolina. I just felt like this was a different kind of weight class they were stepping into as the one they faced against New England and against Buffalo early on this season. The Panthers had proven that they can beat a Cowboys team that's since been resurgent, that they can beat a Packers team. I just didn't think they could beat this team, this level of an opponent, even if it was at home on a dreary, cold, damp Sunday afternoon in uptown Charlotte. I didn't see this coming. I had zero belief, and I'll put my hand up that I was flat out wrong because they did it. And of course I did say, oh, well, it's any given Sunday and all that. I didn't believe that. That's just the stuff you just say just to kind of, cover your own ass, even though I knew that as soon as they won this game, I was going to hear from y'all that said, hey, Julian, you gave them no chance. Boy, they do. They won. So, yeah, they shut me up. They made a fool out of me. I guess I made a fool out of myself. But what a win. What a damn win for this organization, for Dave Canales yet again, for Bryce Young. It's the best win of the Tepper era since the one that happened a month ago when they went on the road to Lambeau Field and upset the Packers. But this one now puts you at 7-6 heading into the bye. This one now has you with 4 games left, needing really just 3 wins. And 3 in particular wins in the division that will have you playing a home playoff game for the first time since the 2015 season in January of 2016. The first time in a decade that will have happened here in Carolina. And this team is on the precipice of doing that. They still have to go over the top. They still have to close because they have not been able to achieve success like beating the Packers and then go and take care of business like the Saints, who they're going to see in 2 weeks' time, that they should beat. It's handling success after you've had these bounce back moments. That's the next step for this Panthers team. We'll see if they can achieve that here in 2025. Your guess is as good as mine as far as who the Panthers are. I know that they're resilient. I know that they can bounce back. Just how good they are, I don't know. I don't think it really matters because clearly they're a good enough football team to where they're playing meaningful December football. I saw Robert Mays of The Athletic tweet this out earlier today saying the Panthers lost to the Saints. They have 2 losses of 25-plus points, scored 13 or fewer points in 6 games, had a 30-0 blowout win, and now have wins over the Packers and Rams. Who is this team? I have no idea. These are the same Rams that they played today and beat that had not trailed since the first quarter of the game that the Rams played against the Ravens back on October 12th. It had been a month and a half since the Rams had trailed, let alone lost a football game, just straight up trailed. So you could understand why maybe I didn't have a ton of confidence heading into this game. I was walking over to here today. I'm like, man, they're going to go play the Rams. They're probably going to get blown out. Guys don't really have to say anything in the locker room. But I already had my message prepared. I was going to say to y'all that, it's okay. They lost that game. I already told you on Friday. It don't matter. Just take care of Tampa, New Orleans. Possibly you need to take care of Seattle. But if Tampa slips up one time, all you got to do is just sweep the rest of the division games, and you're hosting a playoff game at 9-8. That was going to be my message. That's what I expected to talk about here on the show. But instead, we're talking about a massive victory for this team. And we're also talking about Dave Canales finally not coaching scared. It's confounding that the same guy who can craft a game plan like they had against Atlanta, where Bryce Young throws for 448 yards, then can turn around and do what they did on Monday night, where they ran the ball 9 times. They tried to pass it. It did not work. And it just did not look like the same aggressiveness that you felt like they needed to have and had in the past. And then today, multiple times on 4th down, he decided, let's just go for it all, man. Let's not play scary. Let's not just try to run it. Let's not try to just dink and dunk and get those 3-2 yards. Let's try to go for the jugular against a team that is damn good in LA.
Stay up to date all year on the Carolina Panthers by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Panthers on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Coming up, Lane Kiffin is heading to LSU and everyone is mad. Lane Kiffin is officially leaving Ole Miss for LSU after a dramatic weekend of rumors and online back and forth. Locked On LSU host Matt Moscana breaks down how the hire unfolded and what it means for the Tigers' future.
Ole Miss is still an LSU rival that is going to be part of the annual opponent schedule. So what happens to Ole Miss is relevant because LSU is going to continue playing Ole Miss, and boy, is it a mess in Oxford. But let me start with a reaction at the base here. This is an amazing coup for LSU. Lane Kiffin has spent the last 6 years at Ole Miss in Oxford, and in the last 5 seasons has won 50 games. The only schools that won more games in the SEC during that time are Alabama and Georgia. So you are talking about a guy who, over the course of the last decade, has done wonders to rehab his image. From the youngest head coach in NFL history with the Raiders, as that flamed out, to then becoming a head coach at Tennessee, leaving after 1 season in sort of spectacular fashion, going to Southern Cal, being fired infamously on the tarmac, and then rehabbing his image as an analyst under Nick Saban in Alabama, then the offensive coordinator. Remember, of course, Nick Saban dismissed him before the national championship game because he was distracted as he was headed to FAU. He spent time at FAU where he had great success there as well before ultimately getting the Ole Miss job back in the big time, so to speak, at Ole Miss with the Rebels and leading Ole Miss over the last 6 seasons now to their first college football playoff appearance and really an incredible run of success here at a place that had not had that in 6 decades. As a head coach, Lane Kiffin is 117-53. That's a .688 winning percentage. His 1 season at Tennessee, they were 7-6, but that was an amazing bounce back to get them above 500. In his time at SC from 2010 to 2013, it was deemed a failure, but he was 28-15, a .651 winning percentage. At FAU, 27-13, a .675 winning percentage. And then, of course, the last 6 seasons at Ole Miss, 55-19, a .743 winning percentage for Lane Kiffin during his time there in Oxford with the Rebels. But maybe more importantly than even that, the winning percentages, is the fact that LSU pulled off this coup in pulling away a head coach, a successful head coach, from a conference rival at a time where they're experiencing their most success in 60 years. And not just that, but a guy that is a brilliant offensive mind. Remember, LSU is coming off one of the worst offensive seasons in the history of the school. LSU finishes the regular season 108th in the country in scoring offense at just 22 points a game. They failed to score more than 25 against any FBS opponent. 123rd in rushing offense, 66th in passing offense. You are talking about one of the worst offenses in the history of LSU athletics, which is staggering to think. On the flip side, Ole Miss, 11th in the country in scoring at 37 points a game, and that's with Trinidad Chambliss, a Division II transfer at quarterback. 35th in the country at 188 rush yards per game, 3rd in the country in passing yards at 309. Everywhere Lane Kiffin has gone, offense has followed. So you check a box where you should immediately be better in 2026, where you were worse in 2025. I think it's also worth mentioning that you weakened a rival. in Ole Miss. And I want to get some more on that in just a little bit, because, of course, you're going to be playing Ole Miss every year. And you do go to Oxford, by the way, in 2026. And what a scene that's going to be. I think it's also worth mentioning that Verge Ausberry deserves a hat tip. Let's not forget where LSU was a month ago. When Brian Kelly was fired, the governor made the inflammatory comments at that press conference. Scott Woodward was out a day later as he and LSU mutually agreed to part ways. And then Verge Ausberry was promoted as the interim. And he was tasked with hiring, as they said, the best coach in the country. And he went out and very clearly made that the emphasis and the focus of what they were going to do. And they quickly identified Lane Kiffin. And look, it wasn't easy throughout those first few days. Remember, President Wade Roos was introduced and then referred to Verge as the acting athletic director, only to quickly pivot. And they did install Verge as the full-time or permanent athletic director, however you want to phrase it. But all the while, Verge Ausberry has rewarded the faith, trust, confidence in him. And it's something we talked about when Verge was hired. There was maybe nobody within LSU athletics that was more qualified than Verge Ausberry. He spent a quarter century working in the LSU athletics department in darn near every role. He has been part of coaching hires in dozens of different coaching hires across many different sports, 4 different football hires, men's, women's basketball hires, baseball, softball, all of them. So he's been in those conversations, been in those meetings. He has relationships, and it's worth mentioning that Verge has a great relationship with Jimmy Sexton, Lane Kiffin's agent. Verge has a great relationship with Nick Saban. He told us on my radio show he has a standing call with Nick every 2 to 3 weeks. You don't think that it was something that the Friday after the Egg Bowl, when Lane Kiffin's sitting in that press conference and he says that he's going to go seek the consult of Coach Carroll and Coach Saban, what do you think Nick Saban was telling him?
We have to get a better system for all this. A coach can't leave for a new program in the middle of preparation for the college football playoff. That's absurd. Like, Ole Miss has a season to keep having. There's a reason that they're supposed to be separate. And I think all sports should make this so you can't hire a coach until everybody's done. The rule in the NFL is you can't hire a coach if their team is still playing. They kind of get around that rule with wink, wink, nod, 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 nudge, nudge, whatever agreements. But this stuff it's just bad for everybody. It's bad for everybody. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, the Pats have been fed the Jets, the Bengals, and now the Giants later on Monday Night Football in 3 straight games. Is there any chance New York finally springs an upset? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on Sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.